Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Question for you before we dive in today. Have you ever felt like you can do really well with your goals when everything is going hunky-dory in your life? But as soon as something stressful or unexpected happens, then it's all over. You might find yourself eating things that you said you wouldn't, things you're trying to stay away from, breaking promises to yourself, or maybe you ended up doing things that felt like they were going to be helpful in the moment, but that you regret later because you can see that they were actually sabotaging your progress. Maybe it was that need to self-soothe because you were feeling scared or worried or emotionally low, or maybe frustrated that something didn't go your way. If you recognize yourself in any of these patterns, then I just want to say to you, you're not alone. This pattern is so common for my clients. I see Margaret's joined us too. Hi, ladies. Just put your hand up in the comments if this is you. This pattern is so common for my clients that it's actually what most of our coaching conversations revolve around. It's not around understanding food, building habits. Right? My ladies know a lot of this. Most of our coaching conversations revolve around resolving the crap that shows up in our life without using food as the escape route. And I wanted to bring you this topic this week because in my own life, I see Margaret's putting up her hand. Yeah, look, I put up my hand too. Right? I'm bringing this to you this week because there is something big in my life that has been building up over the last 6 months. In fact, there's always something big in my life that tries to rock me. And not because I want to share my personal drama with you, but to demonstrate that my life isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and that's why I'm able to maintain my personal weight loss results. Just because I was able to resolve my weight loss and maintain my ideal body weight does not mean I do not deal with stress and drama and emotional upsets in the background. We often think that people who maintain a healthy weight have zero problems, but they don't. They just learn how to move through them differently. And I think it's more useful for me to show you through my own experience than just to teach the concepts, because the thing I really want to help you understand right now is that losing weight, getting to your ideal health outcomes, and making real lasting change in your life is not going to stop just because you've decided to do it. Life does not put aside all of its dramas and its stresses and its challenges. It doesn't hold all of that hard stuff away from you. It doesn't say, okay, you're working on yourself right now, I'm going to leave you alone. It just keeps going. It keeps throwing all the shit at you. It's going to keep throwing all of its unexpected curveballs, its difficult moments, stressful situations, anything that you weren't expecting, the stuff that you don't want to happen. It's all going to still happen in your life. It's still going to demand your attention and your energy. And the question is not whether hard things will happen while you are trying to change, or even whether they will happen after you get to the goal. They will. I'm going to tell you that right now, because life is life. Life is not going to stop. But the question is what you do when they arrive and how you handle them differently. So I'm not going to go into detail about what's been happening for me, but let's just say back in February, I was thrown a bit of a hairy curveball, as I call it. Something unexpected happened. I had a leak in my apartment, and it's damaged my neighbour's apartment below me. This is not a dispute between me and him. It's between us and our owners corporation. It's a little bit bigger than just a leak, that let's just say. I can't go into the details because it's not resolved, and we've got a hearing tomorrow. But let's just say that the whole process has been extremely stressful, not just for me, for my neighbour as well, but it's been emotionally draining. There have been moments here when I've received an email and I've just sat here and had a good old bawl. And I don't mean B-A-L-L, I'm talking B-A-W-L, big old cry. There have been moments when I felt like a 5-year-old child who just couldn't cope with the situation and just wanted it all to disappear. There have been weeks where it has occupied so much space in my head and I just wanted to escape. There have been days where I wanted to just open a bottle of wine and make it all go away. Days when I've wanted to not bother cooking and just order an Uber Eats because I don't want to spend that energy on doing something like that. I just want to mooch on the couch and hide away and pretend that this doesn't happen. But the problem with that is that none of that way of dealing with my emotional state actually deals with the situation. And this problem is real and it needs to be dealt with. And this is real life. And I'm telling you this because I want you to see what happens when someone who teaches this work actually gets hit by the very thing that she teaches. I have definitely had moments where I've wanted to go back to my old habits. The old version of me would have done exactly what I wanted to do. There would have been bottles of wine, probably copious bottles of wine, not all at once. I'm talking just, in the hard moments. And there would have been more eating in or eating out rather than sticking with my healthy habits. There would have been more calling up a friend and going, I need you. Not to hear me, not to just hold my emotions, but let's go and party. Let's go and escape this uncomfortable feeling. And that voice was still there. That voice was still inside me. That voice was still very loud at times. And it was tempting. It was tempting to follow that voice. It was tempting because I felt incredibly uncomfortable at times. I'm dealing with something I've never dealt with before. And my brain just reverts back to like I'm a 5-year-old child who just doesn't know how to deal with it. It's like, Mommy, I want you to help me. But I have to remind myself in this moment, and this is what I have been doing, that the only reason that it feels challenging and hard is because I'm learning something new. My brain doesn't yet have all of the answers and the certainty that it is seeking. And as a result of not having the answers and the certainty that it wants, it's creating this uncomfortable feeling in my body like I'm in danger. So now that I understand what is going on and why it's there, it's not the circumstance, it's not the situation that is causing the stress and the drama, it's my brain's perception of it and the story that my brain is telling me. This is how I deal with this sort of stuff now. I locate the story that I'm telling myself, and I learn how to tell myself a different story. But before I actually tell myself a different story, before I locate the story, I actually just allow myself to feel whatever is coming up in my body, to feel the stress, to feel the frustration, to feel the fear, to feel the uncertainty, and to let it all come out my eyes if it wants to. I no longer need to escape it. I don't try to push it away. I don't make it wrong that it's there. And I certainly don't try to eat or drink my way through it now. I just allow the feeling. It's just a feeling. I've really been able to teach myself now that feelings are not dangerous. The uncomfortable feelings do not mean that my life is in danger, even if that's what my brain is perceiving. And when I allow myself to just be with my feelings, it does something very, very powerful. It stops. Not only does it teach my brain that there is no danger, but it increases my ability to be able to feel uncomfortable without reacting. So I let the feeling be there and I let it move through me. Feelings are just emotions. It's just energy trying to make its way through your body. And then once I've allowed that emotion to move through my body and I come back to feeling calmer, that's when I have access to the story that I'm telling myself. And I can understand the worst case scenario that my brain might be constructing, all of the fear that it's generating. And I look at it with a more logical set of eyes, with a more adult set of eyes, instead of the 5-year-old who's trying to process. Because here's the thing, when we're very stressed out and when we're very emotional, when we've got these big challenges that we're trying to navigate in our life, our brain, our adult, logical, reasonable brain is actually dulled in that moment. And we revert back to being like a 5-year-old child. And I'm not just saying, we become childlike. It's a more of our subconscious mind that developed in childhood. That is the part of our brain that is actually operating in that moment. And the reason that we can sometimes be very unsure of what move to make next, or unsure of how to deal with that situation, is because we are literally trying to think with our 5-year-old brain. And so the best thing to do in these situations is not try to problem solve or react when you are feeling uncomfortable. It's actually to move that emotion through your body, to move that energy through your body and bring yourself back to a regulated state before you start looking at what the thoughts are and start to problem solve for yourself. Because when you move that energy first, then your thinking, problem solving, analytical mind, the adult mind, can come back and actually help you solve the problem in a more logical way. Reacting with food and wine and suppressing activities never actually resolves the problem. It is just masking the problem. It might give you a bit of temporary relief, but it never actually solves the problem, and it gives you another problem on top of it to then deal with. So food, alcohol is not only calories, it makes you feel worse, especially if you've got a hangover. And then you've got something else to feel bad about. Oftentimes it comes with a good side helping of self-beat up, regret, and we don't need that on top of what we're trying to deal with as well. So in this situation, it's been building up for me just in this last little week or so, just getting a little bit stressed over about this, especially as I'm pulling all of my paperwork together for the hearing that is tomorrow. And I just allowed myself to feel the feelings over the weekend as I was getting stressed about it. And then because I was able to do that, I then decided to do something that was very practical in terms of helping me, and that it was just engage with a lawyer and just get a briefing, just get some advice before going into this, just so that I wouldn't be pushed into a corner and made to agree to something that I actually didn't want to agree with. And so that in itself helped to partly resolve the issue. So it's just having someone standing in my corner, seeing what my options were. And sure, it's going to cost money, but it's the cost of the clarity and me going into that meeting with some guidance and some support so that I'm not making a decision based on fear and panic and brain fog that will come with that heightened sense of stress and emotion that will likely come as I'm in that meeting tomorrow. And by being able to resolve the problem in a more practical way, it just helps me feel a lot calmer. I'm more grounded and less likely to do something that I shouldn't in that situation. And along with just being able to feel my feelings, I kept doing the healthy things that support my health. So I kept going to the gym. For me, exercise is fantastic for mental health, and it's fantastic for everybody's mental health. So if you're having a lot of stress and emotional issues thrown at you in your life, keep your body moving. I kept showing up for my gym sessions, and you know what? Even last week, I had 3 PBs. Actually, in fact, they were at the weekend. 3 PBs on upper body activities. I had my heaviest bench press, shoulder press, and heaviest lat pull down as well. And look, a few weeks ago even, I had my heaviest leg press and hip thrust as well. So I've still been pushing forward with these strength goals that I have in the gym. I'm wanting to build some muscle now, right? Really reshape my body and get myself nice and strong as I head into older age. And I have not stopped working on those strength goals, even through all of the stress that's been showing up. I notice the difference in how I feel when I'm not doing that. So, continuing to do the healthy things for you through the stress actually helps you move through the stress a lot easier. I also continued just eating the way I would normally eat. I haven't once reverted to Uber Eats or snacks. I used to revert to just eating bags of snacks previously when I was quite emotionally rocked, but I just don't do that anymore. There's just no point. I just feel awful after it. And so there's no point me feeling physically awful as well as mentally and emotionally feeling awful. So there's no point doing that, because I want my body. If my body is not feeling good, my brain definitely won't be feeling good. So I keep the same relationship that I have with food. And I'm telling you this not to brag, but I'm just telling you because it is a skill that you can develop too. And I'm also telling you this because I want you to see that staying on track through hard times, emotional times, is possible. You don't have to have some sort of like superhuman discipline. I certainly don't have superhuman discipline. I still have a brain that craves doing all of those emotional suppression things. My brain still thinks that it's giving me those answers because it literally thinks that those things are going to solve the problem. But I now know that they don't. And I don't have superhuman discipline. I just have built a different relationship with my emotions and with my brain that mean that I don't need to escape my emotions. And I've learned how to access the thoughts and the beliefs and the stories that my brain is telling me that make me feel this way. And that's the skill that I want to talk to you about today. Here is one thing that I want you to understand about emotional eating, about the reach for food or wine or whatever that thing is that you reach for when life gets hard. The desire to escape that uncomfortable feeling isn't weakness, and it's certainly not a character flaw. A lot of my clients come to me beating themselves up when they struggle with this particular pattern. And I say, let's not do that. Like, you can't beat yourself up into changing your behavior. We actually have to understand it. And what you're experiencing in that moment, that emotion that you're feeling, it's a completely normal and understandable human response to something, an uncomfortable feeling. Your brain is wired to move away from pain and towards comfort and relief. And in a moment of feeling that difficult emotion, whatever it might be, whether it's fear or frustration or anxiety, overwhelm, grief, anger, like there's so many negative emotions that we experience that we use food to shut down. In a moment of feeling that discomfort, food can provide that relief to you very, very fast. It gives you that bit of dopamine, that bit of serotonin, and the bit of distraction. You know, for the moment that you are eating it, your mind is not on your problems anymore. And because the brain registers that there is a sense of comfort, what it says is, oh, this worked. And it now creates a habit loop in your brain so that next time you experience that difficult emotion, it pulls out that habit like it's a program in the back of your mind. It goes, this is the solution to that problem. Let's do that again. That worked last time. We'll do it again. And it does. It works short term. But the problem still remains. The actual problem that you haven't resolved still remains. It doesn't make the difficult situation disappear. It doesn't solve the legal problem. It doesn't solve the relationship conflict. It doesn't change the outcome of whatever hard thing is that is happening. It just delays that uncomfortable feeling. And then when the food is gone, that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling is still there because the problem is still there. And sometimes the feeling is even worse now because there is that guilt and that shame that's layered on top of it because we ate or we drank. And sometimes if drinking has been your thing, then you've got that hangover, that awful feeling from a hangover as well. So the work, and this is the work that I do with my client, this is the deeper layer that sits underneath the food, is learning how to separate your emotions from your eating. It's learning how to develop a different relationship with those uncomfortable feelings. Learning how to be with them and allow them to be there in your body. Almost embrace them as if they really are your 5-year-old child within who's panicking, right? Rather than escaping from them. What I say to my clients is just like, imagine that the moment that you are panicking, it's your 5-year-old self who feels like something is dangerous in your environment. You're scared about something, you're panicking. And if you were to see your 5-year-old self standing right in front of you right now, panicking about something, you wouldn't run away from them, would you? You wouldn't escape them, and you wouldn't tell them that they're wrong. you would put your arms around them and you would be with them. You would hold them and say, there, everything's going to be okay. And that's the process that I teach my clients, just staying with their emotions, being with their emotions, not making them a problem, allowing them to be there, putting their hand on their heart often to show themselves that they are safe in this moment and give themselves love as that emotion moves through them. And I want to make this very clear. This doesn't mean toughing it out. It doesn't mean white-knuckling your way through the feeling with gritted teeth. No, that is making the emotion a problem. That's resistance. We don't want to resist the emotion. We're allowing it. It's very, very different. One is panicking that it's there and making it want to go away. The other one is allowing it to be there. So it's a little bit like seeing your 5-year-old self in front of you having a bit of a panic, a bit of a meltdown, right? And you telling it that it's not okay. Right, stop this. No, you're not allowed to feel that way. Stop doing this. Versus, hey, come here, let me give you a hug. Everything's going to be okay. I've got you. Right? One is allowing, one is resistance. We want to allow. It's so much gentler. And what this means is you notice the feeling. You notice where it is in your body. You notice the sensations that are actually coming up. You notice everything about it. I actually get my clients to describe as if they could see the emotion, like it was a thing inside of them. And I actually get them to describe for me what it looks like, what it feels like, if it has like vibration, if it has edges, if it has sound. And I mean, like, we really want to notice that feeling, put all of our attention in there and get really curious about it instead of panicking about it. And this is something that took me a little while to understand and do well, but I just remember the moment that I first got this and was really able to feel a big emotion that was coming up in my body. And oh my God, the excitement that came at the end of this, when I was able to feel that feeling and like just allow it to be there and just get fully curious about it. And I went through the process of describing the whole thing to myself. And I was describing how it was moving, how it was changing. And then it just subtly started to disappear. And I'm like, hey, come back. I haven't finished with you yet. And it was like I was disappointed that it was gone. And that completely changed my relationship with uncomfortable feelings in the body. Because now it was like, hey, I want to practice doing that again. That was so exciting. That felt so good. I started to feel okay, or actually feel good about negative emotion. And this is the beauty about doing this type of exercise and getting really good at it, is that you no longer fear discomfort. You no longer fear uncomfortable emotions. You no longer have to escape them. It is so mind-blowing. It was so mind-blowing to me. And the thing is too, once you get really good at this and you allow that energy to move through you, the same things that used to trigger you in the past no longer trigger you in the same way. You might feel a little sense of this discomfort that comes up into your body, but it's no longer as big as it used to be. And the thing is, the more you suppress your emotions, the more you eat through them, the more you drink through them, the more you stuff them down and ignore them, the bigger they get. And every time you're emotionally triggered again, they come back bigger and bigger and bigger. And they become harder and harder and harder to deal with. So you want to get really good at feeling those emotions and learning how to process them through, because not only do they stop coming up so big, you stop suppressing your emotions, you start feeling great about being able to do this, you start having a different relationship with uncomfortable emotions, and you stop stuffing yourself with extra calories that impact your weight loss results. And you get better and better at being able to resolve the problem that's underneath it too. Because when you can move the emotion through, your problem-solving brain comes back online, and then you can come up with a logical response to it. And here's something I also learned, and we talked about this more in episode 1, why you're not doing what you know to do. The circumstance of your life, the thing that's going on, it did not create the feeling. It was how your brain was perceiving what was going on that created it. The thoughts that you were having about it, the judgments, the perceptions, the fear, the stories that were being created by your brain. That is what created that uncomfortable feeling. So the leak from my hot water tank didn't create my stress, my fear, my anxiety, my thoughts about what might happen next, what it might cost, what might happen if this wasn't resolved. That fear of the unknown about what it was going to mean to me, that's what was causing the anxiety. So the circumstance itself is completely neutral, but my brain is creating lots of stories around it and making it terrifying. And I say this not as a way to blame ourselves for how we feel. I want to be clear about that, but it's about taking back the responsibility or the accountability and knowing that that's just what happens. That's how emotions are created. It's not created by the thing out there. It's not created by the thing that is happening. It's created literally in the brain. Your brain perceives danger in some way. Your brain perceives that something's not right. And it creates a chemical reaction that flows through your body, which is the emotion, energy in motion flowing through your body. And it's trying to drive you to action, to do something about the problem. So we want to listen to that. We want to understand that that's what's actually going on instead of suppressing that feeling. We need to be able to be with the feeling and understand it, what the story is, and so that we can deal with the problem in a healthy way rather than eating over it. So I often ask my clients, like, what is the story that you're telling yourself? What is the belief underneath that feeling? What do you believe is going on? What do you think is happening? What is the fear? What is the story? What is the drama? What is your brain predicting that makes this feel so dangerous or threatening? Our feelings are extremely valid. We want to allow all of them. Life is 50-50. But sometimes we are creating a dramatic story that means our emotions are bigger than they really need to be. And we can shift the story. Oftentimes when I'm looking at my clients' stories, we find underneath the surface things like, I'm not going to be okay, or things are going to go wrong, or I can't handle this, or I'm going to fail. And once we can see that story clearly, when we can see it, we can name it, we can look at it properly, we can actually start to question whether it's actually really true. And usually it's not really true. It's not a fact. It's just a prediction. It's a story that your brain is spinning, and we can change that story. And changing that story is what helps you to feel calmer in that moment too. So remember, that's the CTEAR model that I talked about in episode 1. The circumstance, our thoughts, we have lots of thoughts about our circumstances. Our thoughts create our emotional state. Our emotions drive our action, and our actions produce our results. So if you want to stop reaching for food every time something hard happens, yes, the place to intervene, we want to change the action. Of course, we want to stop using food, but we don't just stop using food. We have to change our emotional state and come back to our thinking, shift our thinking, but also learn how to respond to our emotions differently. Learn how to just be with the emotional state if it's there. I say that's learning how to process our emotions and process our stress levels differently. That's like dealing with the symptom of the emotion versus turning off at the tap being the thoughts. And so this is not a one-time fix. This is a practice. This is something that you want to get really good at. It's a skill that you build over time. We build it through repetition, which means you need to have a lot of challenging situations thrown your way in order to become really good at no longer emotionally eating. So a lot of my clients just want life to be calm, no challenges on the way to getting to their goal. But I actually say let's embrace those challenges, because every little challenge that comes your way is a chance for you to practice this art of being with your feelings and changing the thinking and dealing with these situations in a different way instead of using food. And the more challenging situations you have, the more practice you get and the better you get at this skill. So you can't develop this skill if you don't have challenges. But the more you practice, honestly, the easier it gets. I promise you, because I have done it. And here's what I know about the women that I work with who do develop this skill. They not only stop using food to soothe their emotions, they start to resolve the actual problems more effectively too. Because they're now thinking more clearly. Because they're not making decisions from that really foggy, sugar crashed or hungover, wine haze state, because they have that mental clarity and the emotional steadiness to actually face the hard thing and deal with it. So getting that lawyer for me didn't come from a place of being panicked or reactive. It just came from a place of feeling guided, actually, from a clear, grounded and a guided state. There was just an internal knowing that just said, hey, I think we should do this. I think that would just be a really good thing just to give you that peace of mind. And that was because I sat with that discomfort and I just allowed it to be there. And I processed it through and I was able to clearly think about what I actually needed. I was reacting from faith instead of fear. And this is what's available to you when you learn how to feel instead of eat as well. I also want to say something else here because I think this is important. Your weight loss goals do not have to be put on hold while life is hard. That is one of the biggest lies that we actually tell ourselves. We say things like, I'll start properly when things calm down, or I'll focus on my health when this situation has resolved, or I'll get back on track when I'm feeling less stressed. But here's the thing, life does not calm down. It never does. Life is not going to be any less stressful or busy. And if you're waiting for the perfect window of calm and ease, it's never going to come. You're going to be sitting around waiting forever. You're going to be wasting your time and your health. The goal is not to get healthy while life is easy. The goal is to build the version of yourself who can stay on track even when life is actually hard. Not perfectly, not without struggle. You want the struggle because it's the thing that actually helps you learn and grow. And learning and growing is what's going to help you get to the goal. Without building this capacity, this skill of staying grounded, without building the skill of self-awareness, without building the skill of the relationship you have with your emotions, it's going to be more of a struggle to get you to your goal. So I launched this podcast in the middle of 6 months of this stress and this drama that's still going on. I launched episodes while I was dealing with things that I never actually planned to deal with. I've hit personal goals in the gym. I've still just been going on. And this is not because I'm superhuman, right? It's because I've learned that hard stuff is just part of the journey. The hard stuff and the good stuff, they can exist at the same time. The hard stuff doesn't have to take over my whole life. I don't have to wait for the hard stuff to be over before I give myself that permission to keep going, to keep growing, to keep learning, to keep developing, to keep building, to keep chasing my dreams, and neither do you. So there you have it. You've been coached by Coach Keza. Hope that has landed for you. I hope you're taking something away from that. Honestly, if you recognize yourself in this pattern that I've described, something similar whereby things that rock you emotionally end with you reaching for food or wine or anything else that helps you suppress your emotions but does not help you feel the uncomfortable feeling or deal with the actual problem that's underneath. I want you to know that this is exactly the work I do with my clients. It's a lot of the work that we do together. It's not just about the food. It's not just about the habits. It's about the relationship that you have with your food. It's about the relationships you have with yourself, your self-trust, your self-worth, the relationship you have with your emotions. It's about the skill of feeling instead of eating. It's developing that skill and that ability to stay on track through life's inevitable hard moments, because life is not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. No one ever said it was supposed to be easy. Right? We just get stronger. Most of my clients don't need more information about what to eat to lose weight. Yes, some could do with a bit of refinement, and yes, some do need that hand-holding as well. But honestly, most are looking for that support and that guidance to be able to handle life differently so that food doesn't need to be part of that equation. So you're probably in the same boat if you're listening to this episode. You probably already know most of what to eat as well. And if you are still confused and you need some help with where to go first, if you are really at that beginning point, make sure you've grabbed a copy of my Plant Method Weight Loss Guide that is linked in the notes there. Make sure you have got that. That will give you that starting guidance. But what changes for most people and for most women? Let's face it, we're all very emotional. We're designed to be. We are very intuitive, we're very emotional, and that's just the way we're built. It's not a design fault. What changes for most women is not more information. It's the skill of building a different relationship with your food and with yourself. And if you know that this is where you're stuck, and if you know that the eating that you have is not really about food, it's about the emotions underneath, the stress, the overwhelm, the fear, the worry, the anxiety, the moments where life gets hard and food becomes that escape, then I'm going to invite you into a call with me. This is where I would start. Let's just have a conversation. No pressure, no obligation, just an honest conversation about where you are, where you would like to be, and what are those things in the middle that are getting in your way of getting to that goal? What are those emotional upsets, the dramas, the things that are stopping you getting in the way? And we're going to come up with between 1 and 3 things that are really going to make the difference for you. And if you think that working together makes sense after that point, absolutely we can talk about that. So you deserve to be your happiest and healthiest self. You deserve a relationship with your food that is calm and not chaotic. So if you know that this is the next step for you, then I invite you to book that call with me. The link is in the show notes. And if this episode has helped you and you think it might help somebody else too, then I would love it if you could please share it with somebody else, another woman who needs to hear it too. Or please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. A 5-star review would be wonderful. It just takes 2 minutes. It really makes a difference to how many other women find this show. It helps the show get out there. I can't stress to you how important this is, and that how many women need to hear these messages, because I see so many stuck. And my mission is to help everybody who feels stuck in this position. So I will see you next week. That's it for today. So whatever's going on in your life right now, I just want to remind you that you do not have to put your goals on hold. The challenges that are coming up for you are the very challenges that life is asking you to master so that you can get to where you want to be goal-wise. These are just little hurdles that the future version of you has learned how to handle. And this is just your starting point in learning how to handle things differently, because if you can handle this differently, then you deserve the goal that you want. All right, so we want to keep going, even if imperfectly, especially imperfectly. Right. That's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all next week. Take care.